78 laps. Let us keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best at Saint-Devote. It looks as though they're going to get them away pretty quickly. There are the lights. The red will go then in between 4 and 7 seconds. The green, the Monaco Grand Prix will be go for 78 laps. Schumacher ahead of Senna and Hill right up alongside Ayrton Senna as they go into Saint-Devote. Hill Prost leads. Behind him is Schumacher, and are they all round? Senna is in third position as they go round the Hotel de Paris and into Casino Square, and heaven be praised, we have got a clean start. Schumacher, Senna, Hill, Jean Alesi is in fifth position, Berger is in sixth place, Riccardo Patrese is in seventh place in the Benetton, and that's Marc Blundell in the Ligier, who's spun at Saint-Devote but got away last.
Yes, the poor start by Senna was significant there. He was slow away. A bit of a traffic jam as they go around the Lowe's hairpin now into the tunnel with the leaders. And Senna will be looking for a way past Schumacher early on, although he's not close enough to challenge at the moment. Trying for the opportunities before everybody settles down and gets into their rhythm and we get into the overtaking situation. Damon Hill in fourth place, Lazy, Berger.
Patrese, Bendlinger, Leto up, that's Comas, Derek Warwick, Brundle, and the rest of them streaming through as the leaders approach the Rascasse at the end of the first of 78 laps. Alain Prost trying to build up a cushion with Schumacher second, Senna third. There's a gap. Hill is fourth. The two Ferraris, Alesi and Berger. Patrese is still in seventh place. 1 lap completed, 77 to go. And the danger man for Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna, I remind you, they've got sandwiched between them, Prost and Senna. Michael Schumacher, the man who won his first Grand Prix in Belgium last year and has got the Benetton absolutely beautifully balanced for Monaco. This is the Mirabeau. Prost. Lowe's corner. Schumacher second in the Benetton. So it's Williams, Benetton, McLaren, Williams.
Yes, and already Prost and Schumacher seem to be edging away from Senna, and whether that's a tactical move by Senna to try and preserve his rear tyres and not push them too hard early on, or whether he's just beaten for speed, we'll have to see.
This race is going to last the thick end of 2 hours as Damon Hill goes through, followed by Alesi, fifth, Berger, sixth, Patrese, seventh. Bendlinger is in eighth place in the Sauber, which practiced very badly on wet Thursday. They got their act together on Saturday, moved up the grid. This is their first street race, and Alain Prost, Williams and Renault are already looking good. There's Schumacher, the young German. So it's a Renault engine, Ford engine in the Benetton, Ford engine in the McLaren, and Prost comes up the hill with the sea on his right, the Hotel de Paris on his left. They're getting spread out. Senna in third position. Damon Hill is holding his place well. He's 2.8 seconds behind Prost at the end of the second lap as Schumacher drops down to the Mirabeau, hard on the brakes. Now down to the first gear, 30 mile an hour, Lowe's hairpin, into the Portier second gear, and then they boot it from second gear up into sixth, and they come out of the tunnel mouth at just over 160 miles an hour, building up to 175 before going to second for the chicane.
Yes, and Senna is definitely not going with the leading pair. Schumacher probably staying in touch with Prost, but Prost even looking as if he's starting to edge away from him. Remember, of course, that Prost always plays himself in gently and then gradually turns it on, and he's opening up a bit of a gap to Schumacher. Senna, meanwhile, is over 3.5 seconds behind Prost and over 2 seconds behind Schumacher and dropping back.
And this is Schumacher at the Rascasse, the right-hander, exits it in second gear at 50 miles an hour. Now builds up to sixth gear, goes past us here at 160 already, up to 170. Saint-Devote. Now the gap is 2.2 seconds on lap 4, between race leader Alain Prost, Schumacher second, then it's Senna, Hill, Alesi, Berger, 7th is Patrese, 8th is Wendlinger, 9th is Leto, his teammate, 10th is Eric Comas, Derek Warwick is 11th, Martin Brundle is 12th in the Ligier, Rubens Barrichello, 21 today in the Jordan, is 13th ahead of Johnny Herbert, 14th. So, Alain Prost driving this race the way he really wants to, at his own pace, but building a lead over Michael Schumacher. And through goes Alain Prost to he's lapped Andretti already. This is amazing. Michael Andretti, the American Indy driver, who's not had the best of luck, to put it mildly, in Grand Prix racing this year, is lapped on lap 4 by Alain Prost. Now, we're with Schumacher now, and that is Andretti's McLaren Ford in front of the German's Benetton Ford. And Benetton will be delighted that they're putting it across McLaren, because now Schumacher goes through as he approaches Sandoval to lap Michael Andretti, and the American is well down the field to have been lapped this early. In fact, he's 25th. The fastest lap so far, Alain Prost, 1 minute 25.9 on his third lap. Obviously well outside Nigel Mansell's lap record from last year, when, you may remember, in one of the most thrilling Grand Prix finishes that was ever seen, Mansell, having come in to change a rear wheel because he thought he had a puncture, came out behind Ayrton Senna, whom he had led for the whole race, caught the Brazilian, climbed all over the McLaren Honda, as it was then, in an effort to get past, which was unsuccessful. And we're with Prost now. This is the chicane. Now up to the swimming pool section. This is the Tabac. There is the Frenchman. So it's left here, up to the swimming pool, third gear, left, right, 85 miles an hour on this little short stretch, right again, left, up to 120. And there is Michael Andretti. Well, I can't say that the American is covering himself with glory here. He's obviously had some sort of a problem in the early stages of the race, because he's now running in 25th position when he started 9th on the grid.
Yes, and he was right up in midfield around the first lap, pretty much with his grid position. So we didn't see him come in the pits, so we have to assume that he's had some problem out on the circuit and dropped right back. But he's one lap down, and this is a very long race, and people can keep going and still get into the points.
Prost 4 seconds outside the lap record, as Ayrton Senna, in the second of the red and white cars, comes up to lap his teammate. Ayrton Senna, who is running second in the World Championship, has scored all McLaren's Constructors' Championship points this year, except for the 2 that Andretti got for 5th position in the Spanish Grand Prix. And Andretti moves over, sees the distinctive outline and colour scheme of his teammate's car, moves over hastily and lets Senna through. But I suspect Senna lost a bit of time. He was 1.5 seconds behind Michael Schumacher on the 5th lap. This is the coming up to the end of lap 6 in this 78 lap race. Prost, Schumacher, Senna that you're looking at. Hill is 2.5 seconds behind the Brazilian in 4th place. Alesi 5th, Berger 6th, Patrese is in 7th position still, and there is Senna completing his 6th lap. Now 5 seconds behind Schumacher.
Well, apparently the problem for Michael was that he tried to come up the inside of another car. He's got his nose of the car squashed. He came into the pit for a new one, and that's where he lost all the time.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. That's the virtue of having Jonathan Palmer down in the pit lane. We didn't see it, you didn't see it, but we know what happened. Michael Andretti into the pit lane for a new nose cone, and I maligned the American, and I apologise for it in suggesting that he might have dropped back simply because he wasn't going quick enough. And now on lap 7, Alain Prost is a comfortable 2.8 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher, lapping faster and faster as he tunes himself into the circuit, and Mark Blundell is out of the Monaco Grand Prix on lap 7. I don't suppose he'll be too sorry in a way, because he banged his back very badly coming out of the tunnel yesterday when he hit a colossal bump in the Leisure at about 160 miles an hour. And he must have been taking a lot of stick today. Down to the Rascasse. Andretti. He's about to be lapped by Damon Hill in 4th place.
Yes, and Damon Hill really going very well. He's got the race going just as he wants at the moment. He lost a little bit of time on that lap. He was only a couple of seconds behind Senna. He's now 4 seconds behind Senna, but seems to be able to comfortably match him for pace at the moment, as we see from Michael Schumacher's cockpit. The very hard work now coming down to the Lowe's hairpin, slowest corner on the circuit. A little squirt down the short straight, and then onto the Portier, out into the tunnel. So Prost with Schumacher sitting a couple of seconds behind him, clinging on. I think struggling to stay up. Prost has been steadily increasing the pace, and then Senna some 5.5 seconds at the moment behind Schumacher, and struggling to keep up. Michael Andretti in front of Hill still.
What we don't know, as you watch Damon Hill closing on to lap Michael Andretti, is whether Ayrton Senna is in any real pain. His hand, when he went off at 160 miles an hour, took a tremendous thump on the steering wheel. His left arm was very badly bruised, and when I talked to him on Thursday, he was holding his arm very, very carefully indeed, and thanking heavens that he got a free day in front of him on Friday.
Well, I said Schumacher was struggling to hold on a moment ago, but Schumacher may have had something in hand, because he's upped the pace. The last 2 laps have been new fastest laps by Michael Schumacher, and he's cut the gap from 2.6 seconds when I reported a couple of laps ago down to now 1.9. And this is interesting. Schumacher appearing to be starting to mount a challenge to the all-conquering Williams. And Jonathan Martin has some urgent news for us in the pits.
Well, I've heard direct from Max Mosley from Caesars confirmed that Prost has been given a 10-second penalty for a jump start.
Well, how about that? Because I saw Prost creeping before the start, which is not normally penalised, and he definitely didn't drop the clutch and really go before the green. So I would think Williams may be wanting to argue about that, because it's, I would have said, on past performance, a very harsh decision indeed. Normally, decisions about jumping the starter fairly lax, and I think Prost would have reason to be disappointed with that decision.
Well, this is going to be very interesting, because if the correct procedure is followed, and it should be, of course, Alain Prost will actually be brought into the pit lane and counted down for 10 seconds, so he loses more, because he loses the time that he slows down and the time he speeds up after the penalty, and they have to do it within 3 laps. Now, the race order at the present moment, as you look at Schumacher, who is gaining on Prost anyway, you can see that for yourselves. The gap has come down from some 2.5 seconds to 1.6 seconds, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if this lap, Alain Prost, having had a radio message from his pit, will come into the pit lane, and he would rejoin, I'm guessing, in about 7th position, the way the order is at the present moment. Prost is leading, Schumacher 2nd, Senna 3rd, Hill 4th, Alesi 5th, Berger 6th, Patrese 7th, Wendlinger 8th, and then 9th and 10th, JJ Leto and Eric Comas. So they are now approaching the Rascasse. Out of the Rascasse is the pit lane. Is Prost going to come in? We're with Schumacher now, and Prost goes through. That is 10 laps out of 78 completed, and Schumacher is 1.7 seconds behind the Williams Renault now. He's taken a bit out of Prost's lead, but Prost has speeded up, 124.37. and that is about 1.8 seconds outside the lap record this early in the race with a very heavy fuel load. The Mirabeau. Schumacher. Now you can see that Schumacher is a long way ahead now of Ayrton Senna. 9 seconds. There's the Benetton. Look for the McLaren.
Yes, well, they're going a storming pace, and the general opinion before the race was that Schumacher certainly would have to stop for tyres. He's quite hard on his rear tyres. He drives hard, and also the Benetton traction control is quite new and therefore probably not quite as well tuned on the software side to make the to be able to contain the tyre wear best. So that is expected. Senna, is he driving a canny race to try and go through on one set of tyres, because he's dropping back, and that was unexpected, or that he does have injuries.
Williams Renault are in the top 4. Prost leading, and Damon Hill, there he is, going round Lowe's hairpin, chased by Jean Alesi's Ferrari. And Ferrari are building a new engine, a new V12 4-valve engine, which is being tested on the bench at Maranello now, and they hope that's going to give them the extra power that they need. But meantime, when is Prost coming in, and why hasn't he been in already? You will remember in a previous race this year, Aguri Suzuki, the footwork driver, the Japanese driver, was brought into the pits for a 10-second penalty, and for the first time we saw the procedure which we should be seeing with Prost soon.
And Prost is in. Prost has come in now. I was just going to say maybe the Williams team are arguing the toss on this, because I certainly thought it was harsh. There he is, it's stationary, 10 seconds. Seems like an eternity to the driver, I'm sure. And he stalled it, and Prost has stalled the engine. He's had problems before getting the Williams Renault moving at the South African Grand Prix, and this is really a disaster for the Williams team.
Indeed it is, because Patrese already gone through and he's in 6th position, and Alain Prost has still not got the Williams Renault started. This is dreadful for the Frenchman, who was looking forward to winning a Monaco Grand Prix for the 5th time in his career, to equal Graham Hill's record. Now, is he going to get away? Yes, indeed he is. No, he stalled it again. I wonder if there's an electronic problem. He's shaking his head, sadly, is Alain Prost. This is a tremendously dramatic time, and I believe it's the clutch, because Alain Prost has had clutch problems getting away in several races this year. And if you remember, in the Spanish Grand Prix, Damon Hill got away in front of him, and Alain Prost was only 3rd away. He shakes his hands in despair, and now everybody has gone through. Thierry Boutsen, Michele Alboreto, who is 19th. We're riding with Michael Schumacher, the new leader, as Prost gets away. Now, he is a lap behind, because race leader Michael Schumacher is now on his 14th lap in this 78-lap race, 11 seconds ahead of the new 2nd place man Ayrton Senna. Damon Hill is 4.6 seconds behind the Brazilian, and we're with, that is Michael Schumacher in the Benetton, and he's coming up to lap Akio, the Japanese driver in the Tyrrell, Katayama. And Katayama, of course, well down the field. He's in 21st position. So the leader on lap 14, Michael Schumacher, who, if he won in Monaco, would be a superhero in Germany. He's already tremendously popular. He's coming up to lap Fabrizio Barbazza now, the Italian in the Minardi Ford. And the race order is Schumacher, Senna, Hill, 4th Alesi, 5th Berger, 6th Patrese. Derek Warwick is in 10th position. Martin Brundle is in 11th place. Johnny Herbert is 13th.
Well, I was watching that Prost stop all the way through. Of course, he did stall the car the first time. The team restarted it, and then he stalled it a second time. And on both occasions, it looked like he just didn't use enough revs. When he eventually got away on the 3rd time, he clearly was having a real struggle with it. He had to use a lot of revs. The car was jerking, and it looks like there was a degree of clutch problem there that eventually he found a way to get round. It looked very, very abrupt indeed. But now I've got Mark Blundell with me. Mark, who's of course just dropped out. Mark, it hasn't been a very good weekend for you overall, has it? What happened?
Well, somebody somebody hit me on the start at Sendevote there and hit me from behind. Obviously done a lot of damage because the car didn't feel right. And the second lap coming through the tunnel, the rear suspension's collapsed. So, you know, I'm not particularly happy, but it's one of those things.
Was it a big moment?
Yeah, I was coming under braking at about 160 and the rear suspension collapsed. But, you know, I hope the guy who hit me has got some damage in his car because he deserves it.
Very hard luck indeed.
Well, and while those words from Mark Blundell, we saw Ayrton Senna lapping Alain Prost. And whether Prost has got more trouble, because one wouldn't expect Ayrton Senna to be quicker than him at this stage of the race. And we'll see if Prost can settle down. I mean, if he has a clutch problem, of course, once he's moving, ceases to be a problem. It's only for getting him going. But if he needs to stop for tyres, that will be a problem. In fact, he will almost certainly have to drive the race in such a way as to preserve his tyres so that he doesn't have to stop.
And on lap 22, as we ride with race leader Michael Schumacher, Alain Prost is in 22nd position with it all to do. Because first of all, he's got to catch and get past. Long way to go, and as you can see, the gap between Schumacher, the leader, and Ayrton Senna, 5 times winner here, is just under 13 seconds.
Yes, and Schumacher certainly seems to be in control. He's pulling away steadily from Senna. And regarding the Prost problem, Jonathan Palmer has just reminded us from the pits that, of course, this was similar, in his opinion, and certainly in mine, to the problem that Prost had at Donington when he was unable to get away from the pits and had that clutch problem which he had said had been with him throughout the race. And he had certainly some clutch problems in South Africa. Michael Schumacher looking very assured indeed. He's through into the Casino Square, and Senna's only just gone past us here on the start-finish line. The gap going out at more than a second a lap. Of course, there's traffic around now, and they're both going to have to thread their way through the slower cars. And Senna, and Schumacher, a little bit of over-exuberance there, and that's just the sort of thing that throws away Monaco Grand Prix. But in a way, that may be a good thing for Michael Schumacher, because that will have woken him up. And we're looking from Alesi's cockpit, or we were. And he's following Damon Hill, we saw, just going around the Lowe's hairpin. This is where Schumacher had that little mistake then, but mistakes can be costly. But as I say, that worked out well for him, because it should serve to sharpen him up and remind him of the treachery of this circuit.
Less than 2 seconds between Damon Hill in 3rd position that you're looking at, and Jean Alesi, who is chasing him in the Ferrari. And Hill is now up with his teammate Alain Prost, who's moved up to 21st position from 22nd, having passed Andrea de Cesaris, and he's now up behind Katayama in the blue and white Tyrrell Yamaha as they round the Rascasse, and we should be seeing Alain Prost number 2, followed by his teammate, a full lap except for a couple of cars length ahead of the Frenchman, going through and taking Katayama as Senna goes round Sainte-Devote, 18 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher. The blue flag is waving there to tell Katayama that there are faster men behind him ready to pass. And he's let them through, because both Prost and Damon Hill have gone through. And as you can see, the Frenchman is now ahead of Damon Hill as Alesi passes Katayama. Lap 18, race order. Michael Schumacher, Benetton leads in Monaco by 18 seconds from Ayrton Senna. 3rd, 3.5 seconds behind Senna is Hill. 4th is Alesi, 1.2 seconds behind Hill. 5th is Berger, 2.5 seconds behind Alesi. 6th is Patrese in the 2nd Benetton. 7th is Wendlinger. 8th is Leto. 9th is Comas. 10th is Derek Warwick. 11th is Martin Brundle. And Alain Prost is still in 21st position, but working his way through the field.
Yes, and it seems to me that Schumacher's tactics must be committed to changing tyres, because he seems to be going away. He's just put in a new fastest lap. He is certainly piling on the pace as hard as he can at the moment, and that means that he's throwing caution to the wind as far as preserving the tyres is concerned. He's trying to build up a big enough lead to get in and out of the pits and still be in front. And at the moment, he's looking like favourite to achieve that, because he's very nearly 20 seconds ahead of Senna and pulling it away at well over a second a lap. In fact, he pulled over 2 seconds on that last lap. Senna, of course, has got some traffic around, but Schumacher is really dominating at the moment.
Now, well, I think you're absolutely right on that, James. I think McLaren's tactics are going to be to wait. They're not going to change tyres. They're going to let Schumacher make the stop that they think he's going to have to, and then not make a stop at all.
Yeah, there's little doubt that the new Benetton traction control, which is the Mark 1 version, and they're introducing a Mark 2 version in Canada for the next Grand Prix, is not as efficient as that of McLaren, and will be therefore chewing up the tyres more. And a very wide line taken by Michele Alboreto at the chicane to let Alain Prost, who is now 19th on lap 19, so he's gained another 2 places in his working up through the field. And he's got Damon Hill driving at a respectful distance behind him. And Michael Schumacher, very much the man of the race so far, after that appalling problem that Alain Prost... Now, here's a replay of the start. Alain Prost on the left, Schumacher on the right, backwards and forwards. So let's watch for the lights to turn to green, hopefully. Prost gets away. No problem there. Schumacher's second. But that indicated to you why Alain Prost had that 10-second penalty. I must say, I think it was very harsh. I noticed him creep a bit, but I wouldn't have said it was a jump start.
That's right, he did creep a bit, and that was probably the clutch problem that we saw when that really tripped him up so badly when he had to make that stop. And because it was dragging on the clutch, he didn't actually drop the clutch for go until pretty much as the green light was coming on, and I think it was a very, very marginal and pretty harsh decision to do that. But in the meantime, it's interesting. Jonathan seems to be down in the pits privy to the McLaren tactics there, but what interests me is that at the moment, Senna's held Schumacher with traffic just then, but Schumacher's building his lead at a sufficient rate that if he can come in and out of the pits and even come out just behind Senna with the benefit of a pair of fresh rears, he may well be able to get past. And even yet, at this rate, if he can keep this rate of building a lead, he may yet be able to come out in the lead. And then with the advantage of a fresh pair of rears, he'll really be able to go. So I think Senna looks as if he's struggling to stay in range in order to be in the lead after Schumacher's stop.
Riding with Alesi. Ahead of us is Damon Hill in third position. Right behind is Gerhard Berger. There are the two Ferraris. Alesi fourth, Berger fifth. And significantly, Alain Prost down in 18th position after that long stop is lapping quite a lot slower than the leaders, Schumacher and Senna, because, of course, he's having to fight his way through traffic. So, Schumacher with that substantial, nearly 20-second lead. It would have to be a very, very slick pit stop from the Benetton crew to get him out in the lead again. And if he didn't get out in the lead, he would have a major problem, because we all think Senna's going straight through. And if Senna was in front of him, I can't see the Brazilian moving over and letting German Michael Schumacher through to stop Senna winning his 6th Monaco.
Yes, it's a technically slow pit stop here at Monaco. The pit lane entrance is a bit fiddly, and it's a very narrow pit lane. There are a lot of people around, and they can't come in and out with the gay abandon flat-out speed that they do at normal circuits. And for that reason, I would think that Schumacher will be looking to have over 30 seconds to be sure to get in and out ahead of Senna.
And on the 22nd lap, we've only got one retirement, that of Mark Blundell, who you heard talking to Jonathan Palmer. And things are settling down a bit. Senna's taken a bit out of the lead of Michael Schumacher, because Senna's just gone round in just under 1 minute 25 seconds compared with Schumacher's 1 minute 26.3. There is the German. lap 22, leading Senna now by 18 seconds. Damon Hill, the leading Williams Renault, very much in the points, in fact potentially on the podium for his first Monaco Grand Prix in the Williams Renault, 8 seconds behind Gerhard Berger's Ferrari. Now we're with Schumacher up to the Hotel de Paris, left 4th gear, 90 miles an hour into Casino Square. Turn right, 3rd gear, 80 miles an hour. Accelerate hard up to 130. Here, 4th gear, right at the Mirabeau, 2nd gear.
There's a lot less heat gets into the tyres if you wait a bit until the car uses its fuel. It is significantly lighter. There's Thierry Boutsen.
Sipko Heisman, who is one of the chief backers of the McLaren team, said to me at the South African Grand Prix, where I was forecasting that McLaren probably wouldn't go all this well this year with a new chassis and a new engine, came up to me and said, don't ever underestimate McLaren, Murray. And he turned out to be absolutely right, because Senna finished 2nd in that race and went on and won the next 2 and has led the World Championship and is now 2nd. And I would say don't ever underestimate Ayrton Senna at Monaco. All right, Schumacher may be leading, but Senna is next man up.
And he's turning up the wick because he's just improved on his own previous fastest lap in this race, and they both he and Schumacher had clear laps then, and he was able to pull a couple of tenths out of Schumacher.
So, Michael Schumacher entering the swimming pool section where the Armco seems to get closer and closer, and he's coming up behind one of the Lotuses. It looks to me like Johnny Herbert, who is about halfway down the field, the Englishman in the Lotus, and he's had an awful lot of problems getting it balanced, as has his teammate Sandro Zanardi. And he is about to be lapped by race leader Schumacher, and it is Johnny Herbert. Schumacher is now on his 25th lap, and Johnny Herbert is in 13th place. So Schumacher has lapped everybody up to 12th position, and in that 12th position at the moment is Rubens Barrichello, the 21-year-old, now 21 today, Brazilian, who has made a marvellous entry into Grand Prix racing after having been the British Formula 3 champion the year before last. And Schumacher now is about to lap Barrichello as they go into the portier. There is the Jordan Hart going into the tunnel, followed by the race leader.
Yes, and this looks a bit crowded, and 2 Saubers in a very unteammately performance.
Yeah, well, that's Wendlinger in 7th position and JJ Leto in 8th position, and they've committed a cardinal sin as team members of the same team by driving into each other, and it looked to me as though Wendlinger may well have lost his 7th position, and JJ Leto, then in 8th position, may well have damaged his suspension. In fact, JJ Leto is out. He's the 3rd retirement. Did himself a power of no good. He's been complaining about the handling of his car ever since he arrived at Monaco and started practicing on Thursday. And so now Mark Blundell is out, Thierry Boutsen is out, JJ Leto is out, and you're watching race leader Michael Schumacher about 18 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna on his 26th lap.
Yes, and Senna now seems to be in a position to contain Schumacher's lead. It's now gone up to just over 18 seconds, Senna with a little bit of traffic then, but if he can keep that under 25 seconds, he can surely remain in the lead, or, sorry, take the lead when Schumacher goes for tyres, and that may be proved decisive, and I'm sure that's what Ayrton Senna is hoping.
And Alain Prost is still 18th. He doesn't seem to be able to get past Sandro Zanardi's Lotus, who's in 17th place ahead of him. The race order on lap 26 as you watch the 2 Ferraris. Schumacher leads Senna by 18 seconds. Damon Hill is 10 seconds behind Senna in 3rd position. The 2 Ferraris are within your gaze now. They're 4th and 5th. Alesi and Berger. We haven't had two Ferraris together as high up as this for a long, long time. Riccardo Patrese is a long way back in 6th position, but still in the points. Wendlinger, after that, coming together with JJ Leto, is in 7th place, 24 seconds behind behind Patrese. Comas is 8th, Warwick is 9th, and Martin Brundle is still in 10th position in the Ligier. Now, we are with the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger. Ahead is the Ferrari of Jean Alesi. They're doing 120 miles an hour here, down to first gear, 30 miles an hour for the Rascasse, the restaurant on the corner, into the so-called start and finish straight, which, as you can see, is anything but straight. It curves left, then right, up to Sainte-Devote, back into second gear. Alesi, 4th, Berger, 5th, Ferrari. And ahead of them is Damon Hill, but not very much ahead of them. Only 1.8 seconds ahead. So, are we going to see a Ferrari catch and pass a Williams-Renault? It would certainly be making history in 1993 if we did, because it hasn't happened before. And Alain Prost is still storming along. He's up to 17th position now, but he's still behind Zanardi, and he is on his 27th lap. He's gained 5 places in 12 laps, but that's not very much to write home about for a man of his distinction and in a car like his. And I suspect he may be having problems in the cockpit that we're not aware of. Now there is Prost, followed by Suzuki. And Prost is not all that much in front of Damon Hill. There is the Englishman, and Alesi's getting closer and closer. The Ferraris are making a race of it. And you'll see the living proof in just a moment as Damon Hill comes through. Now they're in traffic with a vengeance. There's Prost. There is Zanardi. And Zanardi is 17th and is about to be caught and passed Damon Hill hopes in 3rd position by the Williams-Renault. We're looking back now from Damon Hill's Williams-Renault at the suspension, which collapsed so dramatically yesterday morning at the Ferrari of Jean Alesi, the charging French Sicilian, who has got more dash, more style and more brio than half the grid put together. And he's certainly showing it today. He said after practice yesterday, I know I was pushing hard, but that's what I'm paid for. He's paid a lot, and he's worth every penny of it. They're disappearing into the tunnel on lap 28, the battle for 3rd. Hill, Alesi and Berger. Williams, Renault, Ferrari and Ferrari, with Riccardo Patrese 17 seconds behind them as Hill goes through and tries to take Zanardi and does so, and Alesi tries to follow through, but Zanardi has to close the door or go into the Armco, and it's pretty clear which of those two things he was going to do. And you can see now that with that astute, forceful passing manoeuvre, Damon Hill has increased the gap between himself and the two Ferraris. Great stuff.
Yes, and I don't think that... yes, exactly. That Jean Alesi will be very pleased with that, because Zanardi, having got half out of the way, got right back into it, and he was in the race, and that really was not very good driving by Zanardi.
So, 0, Damon Hill climbing towards the Hotel de Paris, looking back, round the left-hander, round the Massenet, and he's looking back at, or rather we were looking back, Damon isn't, at Aguri Suzuki's footwork. Mugen, the Japanese driver, in 16th place, has been lapped by Damon Hill, who is now coming up to lap the dashing Frenchman Philippe Alliot in the Larousse, and he is in 15th place. Look back from Hill as he goes into the tunnel.
Yes, and Alesi still not past Zanardi, and you won't be very impressed with that.
And while we're watching this, Ayrton Senna has pulled the bung out, and he's now just under 14 seconds behind Schumacher. He's putting on the pressure and increasing his speed all the time, notwithstanding which Michael Schumacher has still put up the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 24.1, which is some 2.5 seconds outside Nigel Mansell's last year's record. I remind you, though, that Mansell had bigger tyres, more downforce and more powerful fuel last year, no disrespect to him, as Gerhard Berger, the Austrian, chasing his teammate Alesi, goes past the start and finish point. Out go the signal boards to tell them where they are. Now they're coming up to Suzuki, who is not always the driver with the narrowest motor car, but I can see no reason why he should try to stop them getting through, as Ayrton Senna in second position comes up to lap Fabrizio Barbazza, the Italian in the Minardi, who is going well. He is in fifth place. Brownlow's hairpin. That's Schumacher. Up to the Rascasse on to complete his 30th lap in this 78-lap race. And the gap, as on the previous lap, between Schumacher and Senna was 13.4 seconds. Schumacher has just gone through and is now climbing the hill again. So 13.4 seconds for Senna to now. He does so. And this time the gap from 13.4 has gone up to 15 seconds. You're one lap adrift on that caption. So Ayrton Senna is keeping as much pressure as he can on Michael Schumacher. But one encouraging thing for Benetton is that in a situation where they are alleged to have a more powerful Ford engine, they are at last showing the way to McLaren.
Yes, and again from Berger's cockpit, he's fighting his way through the traffic. But the lead now, of course, or rather the gap between Schumacher and Senna will tend to go up and down a bit. Schumacher has fought his way through quite a lot of traffic, which Senna has now found himself tied up with, and so I would expect Senna to lose a bit of that gap, but the important thing for him is keeping it under 20 seconds.
Now, if you've just joined us to watch the Monaco Grand Prix, you may be wondering what has happened to Alain Prost, who started from pole position. The answer is that he's now in 14th place, having sunk as low as 22nd after he came in from mandatory 10-second penalty for allegedly having jumped the start. Well, officially he did jump the start. It didn't look like it to us, but the governing body says he did, so presumably he did. And Prost is now in 14th position, fighting his way through the field, but lapping significantly slower than Michael Schumacher, who is leading on lap 32 out of 78, and is lapping quicker than Ayrton Senna, and increasing the lead between himself and the Brazilian's McLaren Ford. Damon Hill is holding on well in third position, but having to fight for it, because there are the Ferraris of Alesi, who has lapped Philippe Alliot. We're with Berger now, who is in fifth place, closing up on Philippe Alliot's and passing his Larousse Lamborghini. Berger in fifth position. Right. Round the Massenet. Into Casino Square. Casino on the right, not the Berger will see it. That's Alesi. Into the Mirabeau. I wonder how the Ferrari's tyres are going to last, because Gerhard Berger in particular is a bit hard on tyres, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if he has to come in and make a stop. If so, and I really am guessing, I think it would be between laps 35 and 40 in this 78-lap race. And there is Michele Alboreto retiring from the race in the Lola, with which he is most unhappy. Sadly, the Lola Ferrari has not proved to be a good motor car this year yet.
Yes, I think that anybody who has really planned a scheduled tyre stop, in fact, could be making it any time now to get the best spread of two sets of tyres, and that's a smoky Larousse. Let's hope that's not putting oil all over the circuit.
I'm just checking. It looked to me like Katayama's Tyrrell as he came. Yes, it was. There he is, coming up to be lapped by Sean Alesi in third position, and Katayama is in 21st place. So he has already been lapped by Michael Schumacher We're getting up towards half distance, and Schumacher is out of the Monaco Grand Prix, and Senna leads. What did I say? Don't ever underestimate Ayrton Senna. And on lap 33 out of 78, out goes Michael Schumacher with a 13-second lead and an exploded engine.
Yes, I'd like to see exactly what did happen there, whether he just came down and parked it and little fire that caused all that foam. Well, now we see no arm up, so yes, no, that was the following driver. We can't actually see really what happened to Schumacher's car, but we see it now as he cruises down the hill. So Schumacher retired with mechanical failure, looking of a very terminal nature around the back of his car. They've somewhat overreacted with the fire extinguishment, but doesn't do racing cars a lot of good. But there it is, at the lows happen. So great disappointment for Michael Schumacher. He was going very well. He had the race. He was controlling the race, and the race was absolutely on a knife edge at the time, with Ayrton Senna holding him and clearly driving a tactical race with a challenge gradually starting to come. So a disappointment for the race. And Wendlinger in the pits.
Maybe to retire, but now it is down to Damon Hill, because Ayrton Senna, with a 6th Monaco Grand Prix victory in sight, there he is now 16.16 seconds ahead of Damon Hill, who is lapping faster. His previous lap was 2.3 seconds faster than Ayrton Senna's McLaren Ford. It may well have been because Ayrton had to slow down at the Lowe's hairpin and skirt his way round the broken Benetton Ford of Michael Schumacher. But on lap 34, Senna leads Hill by 16 seconds. Alesi is 11 seconds behind Hill and 1 second ahead of his teammate Berger. Riccardo Patrese is in 5th position, and in 6th position is Eric Comas in the points in the Narrows.
And Damon Hill, who is very aware of history, will be mindful of the fact that he's driving for his father as well. He's got the Hill family record to defend, and at the moment it looks like it's either going to be 6 to Ayrton Senna or 6 to the Hill family if Damon can do anything to catch and pass him, and he'll certainly be keen to do that for both himself and his father. So Senna leads by 14 seconds now from Damon Hill. The race, of course, in the traffic, the gaps will go up and down. We'll try and advise you of them with allowances made for the traffic.
But Alain Prost is now up into 10th position, and like his teammate Damon Hill, lapping much faster than Senna, who's having to fight his way through the traffic. You see the new race leader now, and he's coming up behind to lap Eric Comas, who is in 6th position. So on lap 35, we ride with new race leader Ayrton Senna, 5 times a winner here at Monaco. 3 times a world champion in the McLaren Ford. He's won 2 Grand Prix this year already. He's only 2 points behind Alain Prost in the World Championship. If he wins here, he will take the lead back from the Frenchman. But now up to Comas. And gesturing, that's his good hand. His bad hand is the left one, and he's gesturing to Comas to move over and let him through.
Yes, he's not happy about that, and quite rightly. The circuit is impossible to pass even back markers if they don't cooperate, and Comas really should have made room for Senna to go through. Well, he does eventually, although Senna had to push, because he is by no means safe from the chase from Damon Hill. Senna does not want to have his time wasted by back markers, and there was Damon in the background.
Well, I've just had a word with a very fed-up Frank Durney, one of the engineers from the Benetton team, who he says he thinks the problem is a hydraulic leak. That's where the smoke would have come from, and not in fact the engine.
Well, I'm watching Prost because Senna is up to speed again, having fought his way through the traffic. He's lapping within 0.2 of a second of Damon Hill's time, and Hill is now second, 14 seconds behind the Brazilian. But Prost in 10th place is lapping much faster than Ayrton Senna as Damon Hill goes through and passes the Lotus. The race order on lap 36 out of 78 is Senna leading. Hill second, 14 seconds behind, and you're looking at him now. Alesi is third, Berger is fourth, Patrese is in fifth position. In sixth position, it's Comas, 1 lap behind the leaders. Derek Warwick is seventh, and British driver Martin Brundle is 8th in the Ligier. Barry Kello is 9th. Prost is 10th, 1 lap adrift. Herbert is in 11th place. Fittipaldi is 12th. Zanardi is 13th, followed by Suzuki, Alio, De Cesaris, Andretti, Barbazza, then 2 laps down. Wendlinger is 19th. And there are 19 drivers left in this race out of the 25 who started. We're on lap 37. That's Damon Hill, second place. Down to Lowe's hairpin. Lapping within 1/10 of a second at the same speed as race leader Ayrton Senna, which isn't fast enough to cut into the Brazilian's lead, which is 14 seconds. But Alain Prost's last lap time was 1 minute 25 compared with Ayrton Senna's 1 minute 26.3. But Prost has got to get past Brundle, Warwick, Comas, Patrese, Berger, Alesi and Hill, even to get up to second place, and that seems a bit of a tall order even for somebody of his skill and experience.
Now down in the pits, you seem to be having a fierce battle with your teammate there, JJ. Just what happened?
Yeah, I just overtook him on left corner. He just kept on going on outside. I had the inside line and I was overtaking him already. He just kept on going and pushed me out.
So you clearly think he was well out of order?
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, JJ.
Now the lap time of Senna leading Damon Hill by 14 seconds is identical to within 1/10 of a second. And Alesi is similarly lapping at almost exactly the same speed in third place. What a joy it is to see these two Ferraris in the top 4. Alesi third, Berger going for in fourth position.
Yes, it is indeed. See the Ferraris back running competitively in the points. And going back to Jonathan's interview with JJ, I have to say I thought JJ was quite right in what he said, that he was through on the inside, he was booting the car out of the corner, and Wendlinger just hooked his front wheel inside JJ's back wheel, and it was really out of order.
Lap 38 in the Monaco Grand Prix. Is Ayrton Senna going to break that record of Graham Hill's, which he equalled last year, 5 victories at Monaco, for which last year Ayrton Senna won the Graham Hill Trophy? Well, there's a long way to go. Is Senna going to have to come in and change tyres? For that matter, is Damon Hill going to have to? Can the Ferraris do anything about it? Meantime, Alain Prost continues to make his way up through the field. He's now in the points, would you believe? On lap 39, Alain Prost has worked his way up from 22nd on lap 50 to 6th position on lap 39. So he is really driving with the hammer down. Now, that is the Williams Renault as it comes down to the Lowe's hairpin, with Alain Prost now chasing the 5th place car of Riccardo Patrese. And when he gets past the Italian, as surely he will, it will be to unlap himself from that car, as the Ferrari of, now is it Alesi or is it Berger? It's Alesi. And that gives Berger the opportunity to close up on his teammate, who is held up by Christian Fittipaldi, running 12th in the Minardi Ford. By the way, they have a tremendous disadvantage because their Ford HB V8 engines are virtually to Group C sports car specification, which means a lot less power. Christian Fittipaldi moves over like a gent, and Andretti leaves the pits on lap 39, having changed tyres, and Michael Andretti is well down.
Yes, well, we're past half distance now, and it would appear from the fact that there have been very few tyre stops, no obvious routine planned tyre stops, that most people are taking the gamble and are going to try and go the distance of the race on one set. Remember, it's the rears that are the problem. with all this power, slow corners, and Ferrari apparently are getting ready for a tyre change, but it wouldn't be completely scheduled if they waited this long. And there goes a McLaren.
Well, there's a Ferrari leaving the pits. We didn't see it go in, but it is that of Gerhard Berger. And I'm just checking to see whether he will have lost his fourth position to Riccardo Patrese. He should not have done, because the Italian in the Benetton was some 21 seconds behind. Well, through into Casino Square, we're on lap 40 now. Ayrton Senna 17 seconds ahead of Hill. Alesi is still third, but only 9 seconds behind Damon, although he was much closer than that earlier on. Gerhard Berger still in his fourth position. Alain Prost is sixth, lapping in 1 minute 25, compared with Senna 1 minute 25.3. And that is the confirmation of it. So, lap 40, 78 lap race. There's still a lot of action left here at Monaco, as Senna forces his way past on the climb up to the Hotel de Paris, forces his way past Karl Wendlinger in the black Sauber, who is in 19th position, 2 laps down. And Derek Warwick is coming into the pits as I talk to you, the Englishman in the footwork car in 9th position. Well, I can tell you he's changing tyres. You're busy watching Ayrton Senna going into the tunnel on his 41st lap. And on the basis of never underestimating either Ayrton Senna or McLaren, and knowing his experience, skill, determination and everything else you need to be a top race driver, it's difficult not to see him winning for a 6th time at Monaco, because that 20-second cushion over Damon Hill is a very considerable one. Riccardo Patrese is coming in to change tyres now, and he was in 5th position, so Alain Prost should now be moving up into 5th place as you watch the Italian. This looks like a very leisurely pit stop to me. Is Riccardo Patrese out of the Monaco Grand Prix? Well, there is Senna. Now, he is on his 42nd lap, and Derek Warwick has left the pits, but much more important, there is Patrese. Now, he must have been stationary for getting on for half a minute, I would estimate. I emphasise that I wasn't actually timing him, but I suspect that Riccardo Patrese will have lost his 5th position, and that Alain Prost, yes, he has done so. Alain Prost has gone through. He's up a place. He's up into 5th position, but he's still a lap behind those leaders. And what Prost will be fighting for now is the maximum points. He may well have decided that he's not going to win at Monaco, but by golly, he wants to cut the points disadvantage that Ayrton Senna will have as the new World Championship leader if he wins, down to the absolute minimum.
Yes, Prost will certainly have his eyes on 3rd place, even if nobody else drops out. He's got the 2 Ferraris standing between him and 3rd place. Berger has just stopped for tyres, and we'll have a look to see how quickly Berger can go on a fresh set of tyres. In the meantime, Senna has pulled out a bit more of a lead on Damon Hill in 2nd. Hill is some 21 seconds behind Senna now, and he has not been quite as quick through the traffic. That most of that extra 6 or 7 seconds has been accounted for by Hill struggling through the back markers.
Now, I have little doubt that our energetic man about the pit lane, Jonathan Palmer, has got some morsels for us. Have you, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's getting very busy down here, Murray. Actually, the stop for Derek Warwick was because his throttle was sticking open, and of course there's no worse place to have that happening than here. Meanwhile, Patrase's long pit stop is because, like Prost, he stalled his engine. We've also got Ferrari, who've got tyre covers off another set of tyres, and so they're thinking about Alesi coming in.
Right, and we're on lap 43 now, out of 78, and Ayrton Senna is increasing his lead over Damon Hill. It's 25 seconds now, with Hill having taken 4 seconds longer than the Brazilian that we're with at this moment, exiting the chicane, making our way up towards the Tabac. This is him, now to the swimming pool area, down into 3rd gear. Zip, zip through 85 miles an hour here, into the right, left, build up to 120 in 5th gear, would you believe, on this section. Hard on the stoppers, down to 1st gear for the Rascasse, and Michael Schumacher still holds the fastest lap here, 1 minute 24.1, well outside Nigel Mansell's last year's lap record of 1 minute 21.6, as Hill in 2nd place comes up to the Rascasse. That'll give you an idea, as he exits the swimming pool area, of the time gap between him and race leader Ayrton Senna, who's now on his 43rd lap. And behind Hill in 3rd position, it's Alesi, who is now half a minute behind Hill and 13 seconds ahead of Berger, who is 4th. Prost is 5th. A lap behind still, the leaders. Comas is 6th. Martin Brundle is up to 7th place and could well finish in the points for the 2nd time this year. Patrese is 8th in the Benetton. Barrichello is in 9th position in his first Monaco Grand Prix. 10th is Johnny Herbert, 11th is Fittipaldi, 12th is Zanardi, followed by Suzuki. De Cesaris is 2 laps down in 14th place, followed by Michael Andretti, 15th. Babazza, 16th. Warwick is 17th after his pit stop. 18th is Alio, and 3 laps adrift, 19th, and the last man running is Carl Wendlinger. And you watch Damon Hill in the Williams Renault. Terrific performance by Damon. He's on target for 2nd position in his first Monaco Grand Prix.
Well, the new tyres have certainly benefited Gerhard Berger. He's reduced his lap times and he's gone some second quicker than he was able to go before on the original set. So he's found some speed for the time being. But of course it only becomes worthwhile if the lazy hasn't stopped and he catches the lazy again.
Well, now Alain Prost's next target is Gerhard Berger. He's some way behind the Austrian in the Ferrari at the moment, but he's lapping very quickly indeed, Alain. And there's Damon Hill. That is Derek Warwick. That is Eric Comas. Comas is still in 6th position. And the Frenchman, the ex-Ligier driver, Eric Comas, who did well in qualifying, has yet to finish in the points for his new team, the Larousse team. He's had a couple of 9th places this year at Donington and Spain. But another point or two for the Larousse team, whose Grand Prix is, this is their 100th Grand Prix. They're running 8th in the World Championship at the moment, tying with Ferrari. Incredible, isn't it? As Alesi goes through and finds a moment just to say thank you to Johnny Herbert, the Lotus driver, who is in 10th position and has just been lapped by Alesi. Lap 45, race order. Ayrton Senna leads by half a minute. Damon Hill 2nd, 4.6 seconds ahead of Alesi, who is charging again. Then behind the Ferrari, it's Berger. Prost is still 5th. Comas is 6th. Brundle and Patrese 7th and 8th.
Yes, well, the Lotus has been a real struggle this weekend for Johnny Herbert and, of course, Alessandro Zanardi. The car has been had a weakness in slow corners all year, around sort of 80 to 100 km/h corners, and there is, of course, a preponderance of those here in Monte Carlo, and they've really been struggling to get any pace out of their cars. But both Lotus team members still soldiering around, 10th and 13th or something like that, and still a long way to go.
Well, we're with race leader, the brilliant, no other word for him, Ayrton Senna, which gives me the opportunity to pay a tremendously generous tribute to McLaren, who've done a fantastic job with this car. After all, last year, ever since 1988, they had been dominating Grand Prix racing with Honda engines. Honda retired from racing at the end of last year. Ron Dennis, the boss of McLaren, had to scratch around the motor industry, and he went to practically everybody to see if he could find a replacement engine. Settled for the Ford V8 HB, around which a new car had to be built, and the contract wasn't signed until December, and that's precious little time to build a new car, bearing in mind that the South African Grand Prix was on March the 14th. But they've done it. They've produced probably the most sophisticated car in terms of electronic systems in Grand Prix racing today, and that's Derek Warwick in the pits, in the footwork. He's in for a second time because, as you heard, he's in 18th position, or was. I've no doubt that he's lost it now. As you watch Damon Hill on lap 47 out of 78, and look at the pits and exit as Warwick rejoins another lap behind the Ferrari. And it's all systems go as they come up the hill. They have bunched on varying laps. Senna is now over 3 laps ahead of Carl Wendlinger, who is 18th. And down to 19th place, the last runner, has gone Derek Warwick. And Senna is coming up soon to lap Alessandro Zanardi in the Lotus Ford, who is in 12th position. Now, there's Comas going into the tunnel. Look at that, right-handed. They're doing 160 miles an hour through that tunnel. We're with Alesi. You can see that Alesi is not at all pleased with Eric Comas, who's fighting, of course, for his 6th position, because behind Comas is Martin Brundle. You saw the Ligier there of Martin Brundle, who is now challenging Comas in the Larousse for 6th position and a place in the points.
And the new fastest lap of the race for Alain Prost. So he is working his way up, but of course he's still over a lap down to Ayrton Senna.
Yes, but if let us have a look at Martin Brundle soon. I sympathise with the producer because there's a lot going on, but I, for one, would love to see that battle between Comas and Brundle for 6th position, because Martin desperately wants to be in the points again. He hasn't had the best of luck in the Ligier team. He's had 1 third position, but he's had 4 failures to finish. This is his 6th race for Ligier, and he has just got those points for the 3rd position to show for his effort so far. So moving up into the points would be very welcome indeed. And lap 48, 30 to go. Senna, Hill, Alesi, Berger, Prost and Comas. Well, we're on lap 49 now, because as I speak to you, Ayrton Senna goes through into his 49th lap, and so does the Williams Renault of Alain Prost, who's now lapping 1.1 seconds faster than Ayrton Senna. Not that that will worry the Brazilian at all, because he's got a massive lead. And anyway, Prost is in 5th position. Now that looks like Derek Warwick to me in the mouth of the tunnel, and he's being passed by Williams Renault. I can't see whether it's Damon Hill or Alain Prost, but it looks to me as though Derek Warwick is out of the race, in which case that will be down to 18 runners on lap 49. Now there's Comas, and behind him, tucked up behind him, we're with it. That's Martin Brundle, and behind Martin Brundle is Riccardo Patrese. So you're looking at the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th as they go into Casino Square. And behind them is a Ferrari. It must be Jean Alesi. And that is Patrese. Patrese goes through and takes Brundle. So Patrese is up into 7th place, and the Ferrari has followed him through. There's very few places you can pass at Monaco, but the drop down from Casino Square to the Mirabeau is one of them, if you are a very brave man indeed. And Riccardo Patrese certainly showed a lot of bravery there as he nipped through on the inside of Martin Brundle. And Ayrton Senna is on his 50th lap as you watch Comas now, 6th. Riccardo Patrese behind him, 7th. Behind him is Brundle. Now there's Comas. Patrese, it's not, it was the Ferrari. Martin Brundle's dropped back a bit. It's the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger, and there's the 2nd footwork, and that is Aguri Suzuki. Well, 1 year he retired there. He stopped his car right on the racing line on the exit. Now this is, and you can see there's the skyhook coming down to lift him off the track. The Monaco authorities have got cranes in all the strategic places here to whip cars off the track without stopping the race, and we ride with Gerhard Berger in 4th place. 9 seconds behind his teammate John Alesi, as Senna stands hard on the brakes, just misses Aguri Suzuki's footwork Mugen, with the Japanese driver still in the cockpit. And you can see now, there is Riccardo Patrese going through and taking Comas. So Patrese is up into 6th place. He's gained 2 places. The Ferrari follows him through. Martin Brundle follows him through.
Yes, and good stuff from Patrese, making up places. It's always difficult here. And he's just made 2 good passing manoeuvres. Patrese is showing a lot more motivation now than at the beginning of the season, and beginning to go a lot better.
I give the sad news that Derek Warwick is walking in through the tunnel as Riccardo Patrese leads Gerhard Berger on the track, but of course Gerhard Berger is very much ahead of the Italian in the race. We are now on the 51st lap out of 78, and the race order, that's Suzuki's footwork being craned off the track, is Senna leading Hill by 30 seconds. Alesi is 3rd, Berger is 4th, Prost is 5th, but closing, he's lapping faster than the Ferraris. 6th is Comas, 7th is Patrese, 8th is Brundle, 9th is Barrichello, 10th is Johnny Herbert.
Yes, so that's a good, there is Suzuki. A good thing they got that car out of the way. I don't know why it was parked there, whether the car was seized in gear or something and he couldn't move it, or whether he'd knocked anything off it, but it wasn't the cleverest place to park.
Now, I've just had news that McLaren are expecting somebody in for a pit stop. That somebody surely must be Ayrton Senna, who is leading by 27 seconds, because we've seen, and it is Ayrton Senna, there he is. Now, is Damon Hill going to take the lead? Because this looks like a slow pit stop. Hill is leading, Damon Hill goes through, and Ayrton Senna is still in the pit lane. The race is on.
Yes, very slow stop again by McLaren. Seemed to be the problem jacking the front of the car there. But they've got the rears changed, so now we've got a real race on. Ayrton Senna on fresh tyres. Well, the printout still has Senna crossing the line first, ahead of Damon Hill.
And I'm wondering if I've got to eat humble pie. I saw a flash of a Williams-Renault Alain Prost. We'll soon let you know, because here is Damon Hill coming down to the Mirabeau. And he is on his 52nd lap. And Ayrton Senna is still in the lead. My apologies, it was Alain Prost that went through. There is Damon Hill, but the gap is now only just over 9 seconds. But that should be enough for Ayrton Senna. He's on fresh rubber. It will have been heated up to practically race operating temperature, and he's on his way.
Yes, and McLaren used the right tactics, and it's really worked for them, because they made sure to build up a big enough lead to allow for any problems at a pit stop, because they appeared to get a problem. And there's Damon Hill. We just saw Senna go through, and they did appear to have a problem, and they had enough in hand, and Senna is out in the lead, albeit quite a comfortable one, but in the lead was all he needed. In the meantime, Alain Prost, of course, unlapped himself, but he's still very nearly a lap down from Senna. Now, Senna went out on what appeared to be brand new tyres. You can see the label still on the front, and they'll take a couple of laps to come in, which is why you see his teammate pressing him, and you'd expect Damon to close on him, because it's a slow lap by Senna, that one. The gap now 4.5 seconds. But remember, Senna's tyres will be in up to proper working temperature in about another lap.
Yeah, and Damon Hill, of course, has not been in for new tyres, so his will be very worn compared with those of the Brazilian. The odds must be in Ayrton Senna's favour for a 6th victory, as opposed to Damon Hill's for a 1st win at Monaco. But it's closer than it has been for a long, long time in this race. Senna leading Hill by 4.5 seconds on lap 53. Alesi 13 seconds behind. The 2nd Ferrari of Berger is still in the 4th position. In 5th place it is Prost, who is now on the same lap as the leaders. Patrese is in 6th. Then it's Comas, Brundle, Barrichello, and Herbert is 10th. And a spinner there, it's Comas, who was in 7th place, and that should have let Martin Brundle through.
I think something's wandering about on Comas's car there. And we see now what happened at the replay. Brundle attacking Comas. Looks as if contact was made. Some bits off Brundle's front wing. It looked to come off as well. So trouble for both of them if there was damage to Brundle's car. Spectacular recovery by Comas. Go back to Berger's cockpit. Now, up front, Damon Hill, incidentally, responded to the stimulus of seeing Senna, having Senna in sight instead of nearly 30 seconds further down the road, and put in his own fastest lap of the race, so he responded to that. But Senna has settled, and Senna has now got the lead back to over 5.5 seconds, and his tyres are in, looks like pulling away, and there you see on the caption, fastest lap for Alain Prost, and there is Martin Brundle in the pits. So that'll be for a replacement nose. There it is. And it's not a place you can get past somebody unless you're fully alongside and the chap beside you wants to cooperate. And Comas is a fairly hard man. So there goes Senna now. Senna goes over the line. His teammate, of course, to cover him from behind, because Damon Hill, to get at Senna, has got to get past Michael Andretti. And Michael Andretti, for him, it's a chance to contribute. The way he can do that, it wouldn't be right to hold Damon Hill up, but if he can go quickly enough to make himself difficult to catch by Damon, he will have that effect.
Senna comes up to lap Martin Brundle, who's dropped down to 11th place after having that replacement nose cone, but is still ahead of the Brazilian exiting the tunnel. Is Senna going to get through at the chicane? No, he is not. We're with him now. And of course this is helping Damon Hill to close up, and Senna is indicating to Martin Brundle that he wants to come through. And Martin Brundle's having nothing of it. The gap is maintained as they go round the swimming pool, and this must be enabling Damon Hill to close up. The gap was 6.7 seconds on the previous lap. Down to the Rascasse. Now this is where Senna should get through.
Yeah, that's out of order. Martin Brundle just out of the pits. He's not really racing anybody, just getting settled in. He really should have let the leader through. Back markers have got to cooperate. And it's interesting to note that the people who tend to cooperate best when being lapped are the people who are used to being at the front of the race and know what it's like. And Brundle is still not letting him through. He has an enormous or considerable power advantage over Senna with that Renault engine in the back, which makes it very difficult to get at him in a straight line. And look at the squirt. And if Brundle, you see, just as we said earlier, you can go 3 seconds a lap slower than somebody else and still be. And there's Riccardo Patrese. Patrese stopped out on the circuit, and a disappointing day for Benison after promising so much with that storming first third of the race by Michael Schumacher. Senna 6 seconds ahead of Damon Hill.
Well, Patrese was in 6th place, and Senna has now. We haven't seen it, but there's no Martin Brundle ahead of the Brazilian, so he's obviously got past. And the gap between Senna and Hill at the beginning of this lap was 6.5 seconds. Now we'll soon see whether Damon was able to close up a bit, but he's going to have the problem, of course, of getting past Martin Brundle, although it may not be as great a problem because there is not a power differential between the Ligier Renault and the Williams Renault of the order that there is between Senna's McLaren Ford and Martin Brundle's Ligier Renault. So there's Senna, and it's still 6.5 seconds. The Brazilian Senna, and this is where he passed Martin Brundle at the chicane. Martin did move over and let him through. He could have held the tight line, but he didn't. We're with Senna now, going down into Lowe's corner, and that's the gap between him and Martin Brundle, followed by Andretti, followed by Hill. Well, Damon Hill is now looking good for second place on lap 57 out of 58. The Ferraris are running true in third and fourth places, by far their best performance this year, because the famous numbers 27 and 28, the highest that they've had is a couple of sixth places for Gerhard Berger in South Africa and Spain, and they're looking as though they're going to finish third and fourth, which would be real encouragement, and very well-deserved encouragement for the Maranello concern, who have worked ceaselessly to improve their car this season. Senna then Wendlinger, the sole remaining Sauber driver, and Wendlinger is in 16th place. He's about to be lapped by Senna for the third time.
Yes, he's going to have to cooperate, and he has. He's just backed it off out of the corner a little bit to let Senna go through, and that was good driving by Wendlinger, because he could have held Senna up for most of the rest of that lap. And Damon Hill is fighting to stay with Senna. Senna is pushing, and the two of them, Senna has now got the gap out to nearly 8 seconds. But this is the critical stage of the race. Remember, Senna has the advantage of fresh rubber, but that advantage will gradually dissipate as his tyres get more worn, and the performance differential between the two sets will reduce, and that will help Damon Hill. In the meantime, Damon Hill is using the greater potential car performance of the Williams to rub out most of the tyre advantage. But he's got to try and stay in touch with Senna now over the next half a dozen to 10 laps or so, as we get a replay of a very crowded scene with two Loti side by side, and pretty close to making contact, but like proper teammates, they managed to do it without.
Zanardi and Herbert are running 8th and 9th, but Jonathan Palmer, news perhaps of what happened to Ayrton Senna on that long-winded pit stop of his?
Yes, with regard to that pit stop, paradoxically, it actually demonstrated what a highly organised team McLaren are, because what happened was that the air jack failed at the front end of the car, yet McLaren, as ever, had contingency. The mechanical jack was alongside, and that, of course, took a few more seconds, but at least it didn't lose Senna the race.
No, and 20 laps to go. You've probably just seen the caption. We're on lap 59 now with Ayrton Senna now easing away from Damon Hill. He's just done a lap in 1 minute 23.9, which is 0.3 of a second off Alain Prost's fastest lap. Damon Hill is now nearly 9 seconds behind the Brazilian. That is Jean Alesi, who is in third position in the Ferrari. 5 seconds ahead of his teammate Gerhard Berger. In fifth position, it is Alain Prost, who is now 72 seconds behind the race leader, Ayrton Senna. Rubens Barrichello is in the points, I think for the first time. No, he was in the points at Donington, but if the Brazilian finishes in the points in the Jordan Hart, he ran in the points for some time at Donington, didn't actually finish there, of course, but if Barrichello finishes in the top 6, it would be a wonderful 21st birthday present for him, and a wonderful first point of the season for the Jordan Hart team. Encouragement for Eddie Jordan, encouragement for Brian Hart. We're on lap 60 now. Ayrton Senna speeding up, 1 minute 23.74, and that caption is 1 lap short, actually in 6th place.
Yes, and Senna's got a clear road ahead of him, probably for a couple more laps before he hits a large gaggle of traffic. But he pulled two seconds from Damon Hill on that lap. The lead nearly 11 seconds. And Senna, with his fresh tyres, looks set now to establish total control of this race.
Smoking tyres from the Ferrari there. Alesi trying very, very hard indeed, as he always does. Never, ever gives up. Alain Prost isn't giving up either. He's in 5th position at the swimming pool. I told you before that the gap was some 72 seconds. I don't know whether it's increased. That's Riccardo Patrese watching over the Armco on the approach to the Mirabeau.
The net position for speed for Gerhard Berger has paid off, because he, and let's look at Alesi, is it? That's locking a brake. but Berger has jolly nearly caught teammate Alesi, virtue of his fresh set of tyres, and which means he's now back to square one because he was stuck behind his teammate before. Whether the benefit of a fresher set of tyres is going to be much help to him in getting past Alesi, I would doubt. But he's up there, and Zanardi makes it past his teammate Johnny Herbert as Senna gets involved and has a nip in there.
And hats off to another Brazilian. Rubens Barrichello has dropped down to 7th place, and he has just been pipped for that final points place at the present moment, 6th position, by Christian Fittipaldi in the Minardi Ford. Rich reward for a fine race performance and an excellent series of drives all through the season, as Prost, there he is, the second of these two cars, rounding the swimming pool section down to La Rascasse. Meantime, Ayrton Senna is on his 61st lap out of 78, now 13.5 seconds ahead of Damon Hill, and Prost squirts the Williams Renault past Rubens Barrichello's 7th position, so Prost has lapped the 7th position man, and Ayrton Senna is on his 62nd lap. Now, in 7th place, it's, as I just told you, Barrichello. 8th is Zanardi, who is about a second and a half ahead of Johnny Herbert, who is 9th in the second Lotus. Martin Brundle has worked his way back to 10th position after his stop. Michael Andretti in the second McLaren Ford is in 11th place. And they're getting pretty spread out. There are 15 drivers left in the Monaco Grand Prix now with the retirement of Patrese.
And Senna now has 5 cars, slower cars, between him and Damon Hill, and 12.5 seconds. And that to me looks like being pretty decisive. He's got a couple of more back markers in front of him of this present group to get through, but Damon's got a real battle to get through 7 or 8 cars to catch Senna. And remember, Senna has been lapping quicker than him on a clear road just recently with the benefit of the fresh tyres.
Christian Fittipaldi, you're watching. It's only his 16th Grand Prix, but already this season he's finished 4th in South Africa. He just missed the points at Donington. You're watching now the 2 Ferraris, and surely one of them is... That was jolly nearly Berger taking Alesi off, but moving up, it looked to me, in the process, as we ride with the Williams Renault of Alain Prost exiting Casino Square. Now there is Prost. Right behind him is Ayrton Senna. So, and that's the order. 16 laps to go. Senna 11.5 seconds now ahead of Damon Hill. So Senna's been held up by traffic. Alesi is 3rd, Berger is 4th.
I was going to say maybe he was going to be held up by Prost to try and benefit Damon Hill, but Prost capitulated without any sort of a fight and let him through, which is ethically correct. But when you're looking after your own teammate and fighting for second, it's certainly not considered ethically wrong to make the leader work to get past you. No resistance there from Alain Prost. Prost may be in a bit of trouble because he's dropping back quite fast, and Senna has now lapped him again. Prost having, of course, unlapped himself while Senna was in the pits. Changing tyres. And Senna now back to speed. Damon Hill must be catching the traffic. And the gap is 12.8 seconds, but Senna has a pretty clear road. And Hill has a lot of cars.
And you can see the way Senna's going. He's in a beautiful rhythm. He's easing away from Alain Prost. He's on his 64th lap. So only 14 laps to go between Senna and a quite incredible 6th Grand Prix victory here at Monaco, having already won in 87, 89, 90, 91, 92. So this would be not only his 6th win here, but his 5th successive win to put him back in the lead in the World Championship, and to help McLaren no end in the Constructors' Championship. They're currently just 12 points behind Williams, but both the Williams cars with Damon Hill and Alain Prost 2nd and 5th are in the points.
Those Ferraris hit each other just now. One had to say, and incidentally, Alesi held on to his 3rd place then. Berger sort of pushed him amidships, or just nudged his rear wheel, got a bit of a slide, but Alesi got away. And they clearly have no team orders about what to do, but there is one standing order at all times for teammates, and that is don't take each other off. And they certainly took a risk of doing just that there. And Alesi, I remember last year, was pretty stubborn at the station at the Lowe's hairpin.
And I can see Johnny Herbert, he's spun coming out of the... There you're looking over the barrier at Johnny Herbert in the Lotus, who has spun and is out of the race. You remember he was having a battle with Zanardi. He would have finished in 9th place if he'd stayed where he was. So Johnny Herbert, that's, if I'm correct, the 10th retirement in this race. Yes, because Wendlinger is still officially running in 15th place. And that's the aftermath of Johnny Herbert's spin as he came out of the turn at the Rascasse. And they need to get that wreckage out of the way before Ayrton Senna, that we're riding with now, going up to lap Christian Fittipaldi's Minardi, which is in 6th place. So Senna is flying on his way. You've seen him with Alain Prost. Now he's coming through to complete his 65th lap. There's the yellow flag to warn him about Herbert's car, which has been dragged out of the way. And Ayrton Senna is now on his 66th lap in this 78 lap race as he climbs up towards the Casino Square area in Monaco. And Senna, with all his experience at Monaco and with the reliability of the Ford engine, which has been proved time and time again, with the nimbleness of the McLaren chassis, looks a cert for that 6th win. And there's the rest of the order, with Prost still in 5th place.
Yes, 21.5 seconds lead now. And it was interesting to see as Senna came out of exited the Casino Square, then just how little of the road he was using. He never came more than halfway across the road on the exit, giving himself maximum allowance for margin for error and really driving in a very defensive way. Jonathan.
Well, Johnny, I was standing right by the point at which you stopped this time. Thanks for coming to me this time. I do appreciate it.
That's okay.
I'm sure you didn't mean to. What the hell happened?
I'm sure I know. Not normally.
Can you tell us what happened, Johnny?
Yeah, well, I've been having trouble with the gears for about the last 20 or so laps, and then as I came out of the corner, jumped out of 3rd, then I couldn't get second. Was fiddling around, and then Martin, obviously, because I slowed up, hit me, so never mind.
Very hard luck, Johnny. Thank you.
Well, now, while yet again Jonathan Palmer was talking to Johnny Herbert, and we're with Damon Hill with this flickering picture that you're getting from his on-car camera. Gerhard Berger has moved ahead of Jean Alesi. So it's still Ferrari's 3rd and 4th, but instead of Alesi 3rd and Berger 4th, it's the other way round now, as Senna is into his 67th lap, with Damon Hill storming his way through the traffic, but now 25 seconds behind the leader. Hill up, climbing the hill to Casino Square, and that is Berger behind him, and Gerhard Berger is forcing for 2nd place. He is only 3 seconds behind Damon Hill. That's Andretti. And Michael Andretti is in 9th position in his first Monaco Grand Prix, and on lap 67 out of 78, the race order is Senna leading Hill by 25 seconds. Berger is 3rd, about 3 seconds behind Hill, and now ahead of Jean Alesi and pulling away. 4th, Alesi. 5th is Prost, who is 45 seconds behind Alesi, so well out of the running, and looking as though he's only going to get 2 World Championship points. Fittipaldi is on target for 1 point for 6th position. Zanardi is 7th, Brundle is 8th, Andretti is 9th, Barrichello is in 10th place, De Cesaris is in 11th place in the Tyrrell, and Tyrrell have yet to have a car finish this year. Katayama is out of the race, so De Cesaris may be the team's first finisher. Babatza is 12th, Alio is 13th, Wendlinger is 14th, and the last runner. So 20 out of the 25 starters, there have been 11 retirements. Somebody going into the pits. It looks like Barrichello. It's certainly a Jordan Hart. And it's lap 68 now for Ayrton Senna. Is it all over? Bar the shouting. Martin Brundle. And there's Barrichello completing his tyre stop. All action as it comes down to Lowe's hairpin. Into the Portier. Senna, Hill, Berger, Alesi, Prost. That's Andretti with Martin Brundle battling for 8th and 9th positions. Barrichello has dropped back from 10th with that pit stop. Up to 10th position has gone Andrea De Cesaris. Race leader Ayrton Senna will soon be coming through. In fact, I look down the track and I see him now. He has completed 68 laps. He's on lap 69. 78 lap race, not very far to go. There's the gap between Damon Hill second and Gerhard Berger third. Needless to say, I wish Williams Renault no harm at all, but everybody wants to see Ferrari doing well in Grand Prix racing. They've had some terrible years lately. They've worked so hard to come back, and they deserve every encouragement in the form of success so to do here at Monaco. Damon Hill then, second place, closing up on Andretti in the McLaren Ford. There he is. Andretti is 9th and is about to be lapped by Hill. There they go. So Zanardi 7th, Brundle 8th, Andretti 9th, and Brundle pushing Zanardi for that 7th position. It looks as though the Lotus driver's going to get up into the points before they're at the end of the race again.
Yes, and the problem is that they're very engrossed in their battle. These three in front of Damon Hill, and nobody's cooperating to let Damon Hill get through, which has allowed Gerhard Berger to get virtually onto his tail there, and of course also for Senna to further consolidate his lead. Zanardi, Brundle, and Hill is now past Andretti, and this is from Berger's car, looking at Andretti, and Berger lining up. Andretti's moved over very correctly, and that was how he let Damon Hill go, but there was a bit of a fight under braking there in front. Just a puff of smoke from Brundle's left front wheel as he locked it. And the weight started to go to the right of the car as he turned in. And that is Alesi, who is pursuing Berger, but at the disadvantage of older rubber on his car, because he has not made a tyre stop. Gerhard Berger has. And I think sense prevailed between the Ferrari teammates in that Alesi finally let Berger go, because clearly he was quicker. And still Damon Hill stuck behind this battle. And there is Gerhard Berger right on his tail, and Berger's very experienced. He's very much a racer, and if Hill gives him an opening, Berger will go for it.
Yeah, and Hill's still trying to get past Martin Brundle, who is 8th, chasing Zanardi's Lotus, which is 7th, into the chicane. Brundle goes for it and takes Zanardi. So, Brundle is up into 7th place. We're looking back from Damon Hill's car now at Gerhard Berger, who is fighting for that 3rd position. You can see the Ferrari now. They're coming up to the Rascasse.
And this is just what Berger wants. Hill still didn't get through, and the battle rages in front of him, and he's being held up, and it's a chance for Berger.
But he hasn't got past as I talk to you. There's Martin Brundle exiting the right-hander at the end of the lap. That is Damon Hill. We're riding with Gerhard Berger now in 3rd position as we look at Damon Hill. There's Brundle. There's the Lotus. And Brundle is stretching away from Zanardi. who has still got Damon Hill behind him. Zanardi 8, Damon Hill 2nd, Gerhard Berger 3rd. Berger will be going for it as they come to the Mirabeau, and they both go through and take Zanardi. Marvellous. Zanardi moves over and lets them through, and Berger attacks and pushes Damon Hill off. That's exactly what happened with Alesi. Now, Damon Hill is getting away.
Yes, and Berger damaged his right front wheel there, so Berger won't move, and looks like Damon Hill is stuck there. Whether his car's damaged, he's now doing a three-point turn. Can he get it moving? And he has, and that's Alesi, I think, going off with him as Berger's car is crippled and pushed to one side.
Yeah, but there's a McLaren in there as well that's stationary. Now, there it is. I can't see whether it's Andretti or Senna. I think it's Andretti. Yes, it must have been, because Andretti was up amongst that battle between Zanardi and Brundle. Well, here's a replay. Berger and Hill go through Zanardi. They come down to Lowe's hairpin. Berger dives into the gap, harpoons Damon Hill, who was second. They block the gap. Damon Hill tries to rejoin. And this is a replay as Gerhard Berger's car looked at it.
Well, that really was impossible by Berger. He was going, he was inevitably going to have a go then. I was certain of that as they came out of the Mirabeau corner, but that was really wild. And Damon Hill would have every reason to be very upset about that, but he is still circulating. Now, he got a real bash near the radiator area of the car. Now, he has to hope and pray that he hasn't got radiator damage, because he's got Alesi right behind him, pressing hard. So Alesi now in 3rd place, Hill in 2nd. Senna has gone 50 seconds away, and Senna only has to stand up and keep his car standing up mechanically to win. This looks like what happened to Hill from Hill's point of view. We'll see a big bump in a minute. Whoops. Yeah, kind of pushed around by Gerhard Berger. And really that was not the driving of somebody of such experience as Gerhard, and that's from the rear facing camera. But let's just hope that Damon does not have radiator damage.
And Damon did brilliantly there to keep his poise, and more importantly to keep his Renault engine, and that has enabled Alain Prost to move up into 4th position. 3 points. So Ayrton Senna is running 7 points ahead of Alain Prost in this race, but it's going to mean that the World Championship changeover, which is inevitable with Senna retaking the lead, is not going to be as bad as Alain Prost might have feared. Senna is now on his 73rd lap out of 78, with Damon Hill still second, challenged by a Ferrari, this time Jean Alesi, having Gerhard Berger having disposed of himself. Alesi is just about a second and a half behind Damon Hill, who is 48 seconds behind Senna. So Senna must win this race, provided he keeps going. He's only got 6 laps to go, including the one that he is on. And Alain Prost is 39 seconds behind Alesi, so it rather looks as though the 1st and 4th places are set. There's Berger. He looks as though he's understandably shaken. He wouldn't have been going very fast as he went round Lowe's hairpin, only about 30 miles an hour, but he would have just about been doing 90 miles an hour shortly before. And meantime, of course, Christian Fittipaldi will have moved up into 5th position. Alain Prost is running hard, but without any hope of improving his position, unless one of the 3 men in front of him, Ayrton Senna, Damon Hill and Jean Alesi, strike trouble. There's only going to be 3 finishers having done full race distance at the end of the Monaco Grand Prix. There are, however, 14 running at the present moment. Senna, Hill, Alesi on the same lap. Prost is a lap adrift. Berger is out of the race, of course, which means that Fittipaldi is now 5th, 2 laps down. Martin Brundle is in the points at 6th. Zanardi is 7th. Andretti is 8th. Barrichello, 2 laps down, is 9th. De Cesaris is 10th. Barbazza is 11th, 3 laps down. Alio is 12th, 3 laps down. And Bendlinger is 13th, and the last runner 3 laps down. And Senna is on his 74th lap, having proved again, although the race has yet to be completed, that if you're persistent and drive hard and you are of his calibre with a car like the McLaren Ford, victory is always possible. But it's eyes now on these two. There's Hill, behind him is Alesi. There's a car between them. We're with Hill now, coming up to the tunnel. Coming up to Casino Square, my apologies. And we were actually with Alain Prost, who is exiting Casino Square now, having closed up again to Ayrton Senna. It looks as though Prost is anxious to unlap himself. There's no reason why Senna should attempt to stop him, because he would still be the best part of a lap ahead of the Williams Renault, even if Prost got past. So into the tunnel again. And Ayrton Senna is coming up to complete his 75th lap with 3 laps to go when he does so. And although you can never discount him, for him to win at Monaco after having gone off head first into the barrier at 160 miles an hour, as he did on Thursday, having badly wrenched his thumb, having badly bruised his arm, would be a quite incredible achievement. Well, these are two of the greatest racing drivers of all time. Triple world champions, each of them. Senna having won here 5 times. Prost having won here 4 times. No one has won a Monaco Grand Prix other than those two since 1984, when Prost first won. I thought we might have a new winner when Michael Schumacher was driving so confidently and with what looked like a secure lead, until seemingly his engine blew, or not seemingly, it did, his suspension problem, down to the right-hander at the Mirabeau, and Lowe's. And Ayrton Senna is on his 76th lap, with Prost not pushing him hard. That's Wendlinger in the background, who is 13th in the Sauber, his teammate Leto having retired. And Ayrton Senna, who was 2 points behind Alain Prost, will move into the lead in the World Championship if they stay where they are. And if Prost stays where he is, there will be a 5-point gap between them, with Senna leading and Prost in second place. And McLaren, of course, will have got those 10 points from Ayrton Senna's victory. They could have hoped for more had Michael Andretti been higher up, but he's in 8th position at the moment. Indeed, as Senna comes through now to complete his 76th lap now and start his penultimate lap, it is Hill second, looking certain for 6 World Championship points to add to the 12 that he already has as a result of a fine second place in his first Monaco Grand Prix. Jean Alesi, third, will be the only other driver to go the full distance, as Prost respectfully follows Ayrton Senna around the Mirabeau. Alain in 4th position, a lap ahead of Christian Fittipaldi, 5th. Martin Brundle in the points at 6th position, ahead of Sandro Zanardi. Michael Andretti 8th, Rubens Barrichello 9th. Andrea De Cesaris looks like getting Tyrrell's first finish. Encouragement for them and for Yamaha and for John Judd's organisation, the Vettel, the Yamaha V10 engines. De Cesaris then in 10th position ahead of Fabrizio Babazza's Minardi 11th, Philippe Alliot's Larousse 12th, Wendlinger's Sauber 13th, and the last runner at the present moment. Now Senna is coming down to start his last lap. He rounds the Rascasse, and when he goes past the next camera position, which will be very shortly indeed, he will be on his 78th and last lap.
Yes, and Senna, after Schumacher's demise, has made it look pretty easy. But I think he was driving a very solid tactical race already, because he let Schumacher go herring away, and certainly he was helped with the problem that Prost had with his 10-second stop-go penalty for supposedly jumping the start. And I thought that was a harsh decision on Alain Prost, and I think Prost would have good reason to suggest that fortune is not smiling on him at the moment this season, because I really thought that was a bit marginal. And Prost's car has run well, and I think without that he would have had a fairly easy time winning the race. But it's this man who's coming to win the Monaco Grand Prix for a new record 6th time, and what a master he's been. Driven the race of great consistency, never looked like making a mistake, and a fine effort by Damon Hill, really tremendous drive for his 2nd place, and entertainment for Jean Alesi.
Ayrton Senna crosses the line to win the 1993 Monaco Grand Prix, with Alain Prost following him home a lap adrift in 4th position, and you're seeing a new record holder, 6 times a winner here. He has eclipsed his own record, which he shared with Graham Hill, and Damon Hill has more than maintained the family honour, because in a few seconds' time we'll see the Williams Renault come home in 2nd position to get 6 points for Damon Hill, 6 points for Williams Renault. But you are looking at the joyfully waving arm of Ayrton Senna and the traditional flags of the marshals around Monaco. Not only the winner here, but he has retaken the World Championship lead from Alain Prost and is now 5 points ahead of the Frenchman. Damon Hill finishes 2nd in the race. There's a delighted Ron Dennis, and Damon Hill holds his 3rd position, or rather regains his 3rd position in the World Championship by displacing Michael Schumacher. A truly eventful Monaco Grand Prix, as they always are. I said I thought about 12 or 13 would finish, and indeed 13 are going to be classified as finishers, with victory to Ayrton Senna, Damon Hill 2nd, Jean Alesi 3rd for Ferrari, Alain Prost 4th for Williams Renault, a fine 5th position for Christian Fittipaldi and for the Minardi Ford. 1 point for another World Championship finish for Martin Brundle, 6th place. 7th is Zanardi, 8th and De Cesaris, 11th Barbazza, 12th Philippe Alliot, 13th and last Carl Wendlinger in the Sauber. Well, I've told you about the World Championship situation for the drivers, with Ayrton Senna having regained the lead from Alain Prost, and with Hill having regained 3rd position from Schumacher. But now Williams, with 55 points, are 11 points ahead of McLaren in the Constructors' Championship, with Benetton 3rd. And Ayrton Senna seems to have found a flag pole, but he hasn't found the Brazilian flag, which he traditionally collects from a spectator. Here's somebody up in the balcony of the Hotel de Paris. He'll have to drop it down to Senna, who isn't in the right area anyway. But an absolutely magnificent drive by Senna, and an absolutely magnificent performance by the McLaren team.